Is there anything better than using a great read aloud to develop early literacy skills? We think not. In today's video, we're going to be sharing how to use your read aloud time to align with the science of reading so that you can be pulling evidence-based practices directly into one of the favorite opportunities to connect with your students in the classroom. Hey there, I'm Corey with Ascend Smarter Intervention, where we make research-based instruction both easy and accessible. And today, we're going to be giving explicit strategies that you can use during your read aloud to help keep students engaged and to help them generalize those skills that you're teaching. Now, stick around because we're going to be sharing our authentic literature lesson planning framework, which is an easy to implement guide that you can easily pull whatever your favorite books are into this evidence-based strategy. Now, when we're doing a read aloud, we like to follow a three-part process. The three-part process that we want to work through includes before reading, where we are activating background knowledge and really getting into some pre-reading strategy. The next step that we want to be engaging in happens while we're reading, during that shared read aloud time. And the final step occurs after we're done reading, where we're going to reflect on what we've read and also have an opportunity to engage in some new activities and ideas. So let's break it down a little bit further. In that pre-reading stage, we can be doing a number of different things. One of the things that we like to do is a vocabulary preview. So we like to pull a few of the words that are going to show up in the book, and we like to preview those for our students. One of the things that we like to do is to use the vocabulary framework. So if you haven't checked that out, we'll link to that in the details below where you can see that vocabulary framework. But we'll use that vocabulary framework so that we can start to preview some of the vocabulary coming up in the book. So for example, if we were doing this book, we might have some words coming up like gigantic, Samaritan, chips, jalapenos, tacos. Right? We can mix it up with some of the words that the students definitely know, and then maybe some of the words that are going to be a little bit more of those tier 2, tier 3, higher level vocabulary words. Next, we can start looking at the cover of the book and starting to think about, let's take a look at this cover. Based off of this cover, what do we think this story might be about? We can say things like, who's the author? Who's the illustrator? Does this information give us any clues? Sometimes they may have read other books from the author before, and so it might give them some clues about what might be coming. You can also give them some hints about the structure or the genre. So you can say things like, in this book that we're about to read, there's going to be characters, there's going to be a setting, we're going to have a problem and a solution. These events didn't happen in real life, so we might call it fiction. Narrative fiction if you've got students that are a little bit more advanced. Then as we progress into step 2 of that multi-phase process, we're going to get into our read aloud. While you're in your read aloud, you can be asking questions like, hey, we've just talked about the letter D in class. So we're going to be focusing on listening for words that have that D sound as we're reading. And you can have students stand up, put their hands on their head, do something when they hear words that have that sound that you've been targeting in your instruction. If you've got more advanced students, you might be listening for closed syllable words or more complex patterns as you're reading. You might be listening for sounds specifically in the initial position or final position. So there's a lot of ways that you can kind of differentiate that up or down in your instruction. Another thing that you can be doing during that second phase of your read aloud instruction is modeling or previewing some comprehension strategies. So as you're going, you can start to be thinking about the 5 W's specifically: who, what, when, where, and why. We like to actually be filling this out as we go so that students can see I'm paying attention to this specific information to help me out for after I'm finished reading. Now, the final phase is going to be actually getting into that full reflection. Now, this is the best part because it's going to allow us to work through different levels of comprehension and different levels of processing And it's also an opportunity where we can start to pull in some other activities. So if you haven't checked out our comprehension levels of processing video, we'll also link to that one so that you can check that out. But after you're done reading, that's a great opportunity to focus on those different strategies where you're allowing students to reflect on their reading through recalling, organizing, connecting, leaping, and analyzing the information that they've just heard. Now, in addition to reflecting and comprehending, this is also a great opportunity where we can be pulling in activities from the other 5 core components of literacy. So while comprehension is a big one in there that we want to be focusing on, we can also be thinking about some of those other strategies. So for example, if there's a phonological awareness activity that says something like, how many syllables do we hear in dragon? How many sounds do we hear in taco? What if I added a z sound to the end of taco? What would I get then? And you have an opportunity to play with some of that phonological awareness a little bit. You can also do phonics-based activities by either finding words in the text that align with the decoding that they've already learned. So for example, if they are working on CVC words or those consonant vowel consonant words, you can find words in the book that align with decoding that is familiar to them so that they can have success with some of those words in the story. You can also take an opportunity to find those patterns again. So they heard them while they were reading aloud with you, but also you can have them take a look at the pages and see if they can't find some of those patterns. Using little sticky notes and things like that are great ways to do that. Another thing that you can do is to help them with their vocabulary by asking them to identify some words that were unfamiliar and using that opportunity to use that vocabulary framework again with words that came from the book specifically. So for example, at one point in this book, they talk about Good Samaritan. That might be a tricky word, and so that might be one that they want to talk about as a class of saying, I didn't know what that meant. Let's talk more about that. You can also help them build fluency by focusing on reviewing sight words or words that are high frequency that they've learned before. Tons of opportunities and ideas to take these classroom favorites and align them with evidence-based practices. So again, go ahead and grab that free download. We have that authentic literature lesson planning guide that's going to walk you through this process. We'd love to hear how it goes. Now make sure to click like and subscribe so that you can be the first to know when we drop new videos with free tips, tricks, and resources.